Hello everyone, Nubkeks here. The screen isn't frozen, don't worry, it's just the video lagging out at the start when I press recording. But we're diving in once again. This is our Torghast or deep dive series continuing here. We're going into the maximum difficulty for your weekly Torghast wings. You got 2 of these wings you can do each week. This is layer 8, the hardest difficulty that it's possible to do, and we're going in today's video as a healer. And I decided to go with Holy Priests. So this is the same character that I ran in the last 2 videos. If you want to see Shadow Priest, if you want to see the DPS version of this video, this exact same run, exact same gear, same Covenant, same Soulbinds, same absolute everything, go and check. Actually, you know what? Now I mention it, there is a bug, I'm pretty sure, because I see it's not working here, that the Soulbinds don't actually activate. I remember this. I remember it now. I'm sitting down to record. When you switch spec, the Soulbinds break, so I actually don't have any Soulbinds at all. Literally 0 Soulbinds. No Soulbind powers. And I assume as well, no Conduit powers buffing us up here. None of that. Absolutely 0. So we're actually worse off than we were on Shadow Priest. But yeah, wanted to find out and figure out how difficult is Healer in comparison to DPS, with apart from being slightly weaker, everything else still the same, right? So yeah, obviously I could have run this on a Discipline Priest. I think it would be substantially easier on Discipline. Discipline has got probably better single target healing overall than Holy Priest does, and obviously they have a lot better damage, many more damage tools. You can simply slap Atonement on yourself and then start going ham with damage, and you're going to be fine. Now, one thing, of course, you're going to instantly see right here is that the health numbers on the mobs are a lot lower for healer specs. They have been scaled down a lot, right? They are significantly lower. So whereas the Maw Rats were, I believe, sitting at 4,000 hit points on floor 1 of layer 8 difficulty on a DPS spec, they're at 2,000 here. So they've got a lot less health. So that was definitely something that was noticeable. You see here, this is interesting. We actually have an elite in here. The Prison Break Pack leaders. We're going to attempt to fight this elite on top of these other guys, and we'll see how it goes. Certainly as Holy Priest, I would suspect out of all the healing specs, Holy Priest should probably be one of the worst ones for doing Torghast. Their damage output is actually a lot better in Shadowlands than it was in BFA. You know, having Shadowward Pain in there, the reworked Holy Fire, and of course having Covenant abilities. This stuff is all improved. It's not too bad. But at the same time, a lot of the strengths of the Holy Priest are really in their AoE heal. So like Prayer of Mending, I can cast as an instant cast on the move thing. That's what I'm doing. Same thing with our Circle of Healing there. But those abilities are really about healing in AoE. They're pretty terrible healing in a single target. They're not going to be good for that. We're going to use our Guardian Spirit here. This is our external, our tank external. This by default does have a 3-minute cooldown. Obviously, it can proc to save you from death, which is what happened there. I do have a talent, which is kind of nice, that reduces that. I'm going to pop my Power Infusion to be trying to stay alive. Our Mind Games try stay alive here. Definitely should have popped that Power Infusion earlier. You can see we died with still like 3 seconds remaining. This pack actually doesn't reset because they were fighting each other when we go into Guardians, our Spirit of Redemption form. But there you go. There's our first death. That's our first death. Lucky enough for us, actually, the pack stays on the low health that it was on before. But yeah, that was one aspect, obviously, then, of the Holy Priest kit that's not going to help us at all. Spirit of Redemption, right? That healing you can do after you die. That's useless in single-player content because, well, most enemies are going to reset. We only got a little lucky on this pack because they're fighting each other. It wasn't the Guardian, the Spirit of Redemption, that did anything for us. So that's not going to help us at all. Divine Hymn is going to be useless. Holy Word Salvation, probably the most signature ability now, the talent of Holy Priest, also going to be useless. So yeah, and most of our AoE heals also useless. So certainly a weird one. It's definitely a weird one. You can see there we do have a single target stun as a Holy Priest, which is kind of nice. It's this cooldown down here, Holy Word Chastise. One issue I ran into is that I don't actually have it tracked in my weak aura, so I probably would want to add it in for some solo content. Obviously, the Holy Priest stuff is set up for healing and not for just basic healing, not for advanced or solo play. This is when we got stuck there. The cooldown on this, it's a 1-minute cooldown. Gets reduced every time you do a smite, though. So you can kind of track that and have the cooldown go down. One issue I ran into as the Holy Priest too was that, and you're going to run into for most healers, you don't have a kick, right? You don't have an interrupt. Only the Resto Shaman does out of all the healing specs. And we can use Holy Word Chastise, this stun, to interrupt, but this is on the global cooldown, right? Whereas kicks are not. Kicks are off the global cooldown. So it can actually be quite awkward with some of those longer spells to actually get it off. But yeah, we have some of these evading mobs, hello, from jumping off. I think those chains are broken right now. They're supposed to, I assume, let you just climb down them and climb back up. You can't do either right now, so the chains are kind of just a visual thing. Definitely a bug, I suspect. But yeah, as you can see from this floor 1 run so far, okay, we had 1 death when we, overpulled that elite pack. We got a bit too brave, but the reason I was getting brave, if you remember, from my run on the Shadow Priest, you guys are probably already visually seeing this. The Shadow Priest, normal mob packs were pretty dangerous, and certainly elite mob packs got so dangerous on this layer 8 run with this exact same gear and a working soulbind that on the Shadow Priest we actually just started avoiding those entirely. On the Holy Priest, though, we're actually able to do them. We're actually able to do them, and as you can see, we're tearing through this first floor. I would say a lot easier than we did on the Shadow Priest. It's actually significantly easier with the way they've scaled mobs and the damage they can do. Certainly on the early floors, this does change a little bit later on. But on these early floors, actually, I felt this was significantly easier. On a healer, significantly easier. You're actually killing things faster, and you're much better able to keep yourself alive as well. So yeah, looking good so far. Jumping ahead here slightly, this is the final mini-boss on the floor. There's a mini-boss at every exit to each floor. So yeah, let's check him out. The Empowered Moss-Worn Shackler. We'll see how we do against him as the Holy Priest. Of course, we're generally speaking trying to delay Mind Games a little bit here, because Mind Games heals us. It turns some of the damage that the enemy does into healing on us. So it's not only a very powerful damage nuking spell, but a good DPS spell as well. But yeah, again, bear in mind as well with the Holy Priest, our only defensive is Desperate Prayer, which gives us some more, about, 25% max HP? That's all it does, right? That is all that it does. And then, of course, we can Guardian Angel ourselves, but the other healer specs are going to have more powerful defensive cooldowns, like you would be able to use Powered Barrier. As a Disc Priest to protect yourself, you could potentially spam Rapture. You can see here, these are all pretty underwhelming, right? Like, healing my group? He's spawning Maw Rats? I don't know, man. Like, this stuff is a bit weird. That's another weird thing as a healer spec, is that a lot of the powers are actually gonna, well, obviously, make your healing better for playing in a group. So you kind of have to be selective and figure out, I generally speaking went for ones that are going to buff my damage, really, is what I was looking for to enable the sort of solo playstyle. So yeah, we're moving into floor 2. We got these elite packs in the middle. I will admit, I decided not to try to pull these elite packs, since I did have that first death on floor 1. I said, you know what, we're going to skip those big packs in the middle. They were a nightmare for Shadow Priest, so I said I'm not even gonna try, though we fight some interesting elite packs later on. Let's skip ahead to something a little bit more spicy if we can. All right, here we go. This is the spicy room I was thinking of. So I see we got these 2 elite death speakers in the middle. I know for a fact if I'd done that on Shadow Priest, that would have been instant death. I tried to sneak past. Should have mind soothed those guys. They're actually humanoids, so they could be mind soothed, but we end up pulling 2 Death Speakers at the exact same time. This Bind the Fallen cast summons in adds. Their Debilitate cast obviously weakens you as well. So it's a bit of a nightmare. We're pop Power Infusion right there. We had our wings on ourselves, which helped us stay alive through that initial pull. But you can see, for example, I've got relatively useless things. This Power, Holy Word Sanctify, not going to do too much. Divine Hymn, I actually probably should channel a tick, because it gives you like 10% increased healing, but it's not great. At this point, we're trying to power through and take this guy out. The real star of the show for Holy Priest actually has been our talent, that our Flash of Light, right? That gives us these, or whatever it's called. It gives you the instant cast Flash of Light. There are these proc effects that go on the sides here. That has been the real star of the show for us. We actually, as you saw, took down the first Death Speaker. It took basically all of our cooldowns. All of our cooldowns were used, but we made it through, right? We did make it through. I actually am a big fan of Mind Games for doing this solo content as well in Torghast. It's been so good, not only because it's a big single target nuke, which is great against elite mobs, but also because of the healing that it does. But yeah, as you can see, we tore through there. We tore through. We did just fine. I have to say, I don't think that was a mob pack that it probably could have killed on the Shadow Priest, unless we had some really crazy Azerite anima powers. We did it on Holy, though. We absolutely did it on Holy. Coming into floor 4, I've actually skipped a bit ahead, but this is a really interesting floor. There's actually a mini-boss on both sides here. There are these little mini-boss arenas, 2 of them. And we are fighting the Subjugator right now. So you kind of see, I might not show you this whole fight, but they're basically his 3 moves. He has an AoE around himself. He has a ground-targeted AoE on you. And then he has this line smash. What I realized after fighting him, because we actually fight 2 of these in this run, guys, 2 of them, that this effect is actually leaving these permanent debuffs on you. I think I get, yeah, there you go. I got hit by that AoE again. So you see, it's giving me 2 stacks of this. Each time I've been hit, I got hit by 2 of these. I'm going to get hit by one other thing here. I believe actually when I was doing this fight, I didn't realize this is how it worked. So I think at one point, when I think Mind Games comes back up, I actually tank one of these hits just to do some damage to this boss, because it's just taking so bloody long to kill him. It's holy. I was getting sick of it. Yeah, right here, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to smack him. It's going to be fine. As you can see, that actually gave me a permanent debuff. So do not get hit by this stuff. It is imperative that you dodge every ability that he has. Just be patient. It took fucking forever to kill him, but it's worth it. You can see you have to choose this Vial of Lost Potential to remove all the debuffs. They're permanent, right? So we actually have 10% reduced damage because of that. I'm actually going to grab, though, the Subjugator's Manacles, and this is why it's so important not to have too many of these debuffs. Look how good that is. When you attack a new creature, they take 2,700 shadow damage, and a silence for 4 seconds. That's a lot of damage. You know, I'm a Holy Priest. I don't do a lot of damage. So that is really, really nice. We actually got a Cathar stick here as well, where 20% of the damage I take is stored up, and Shadow Word Pain will do that damage to the target. Interestingly enough, on Shadow Priest, we had a talent called Misery, which would automatically apply Shadow Word Pain when you cast a Vampiric Touch. Now, the Cathar stick only triggers when you actually cast Shadow Word Pain directly, which meant that as you can see, now we one-shot Morats thanks to the that shackles we got off the Subjugator. Look how powerful it is against these guys. Like, massive chunks. Look at that. Huge chunks of damage just ripped out of these guys with those shackles. So good. But yeah, so on Shadow Priest, you could basically charge up your Cathar stick. You could charge it up to like 100k damage, and then you could use it to essentially one-shot an elite mob out of a pack, right? If you got a really dangerous pack, do that. Obviously, on Holy Priest, on Disc Priest, you don't have that option, and you really do want to be multi-dotting with Shadow Word Pain. So it's just going to add up to a bunch more damage, and this is what I figured. On Holy Priest, I should, in theory, be tanking quite a bit of damage and killing things pretty slowly. That Cathar stick should get good value. But you can see right now, you know, with just a few of these powers, we are tearing through. We are absolutely tearing through these mob packs. You'll notice our health is starting to chunk a bit more. It's definitely starting to chunk more, but we're tearing through at this point. We're firing on all cylinders. All right, we're going into another mini boss here. I decided not to fight the stuff in the middle, I think. I actually got a power at some stage that lets me see which enemies have power, so we can actually see some of them to the left there. That Death Speaker and this mini boss has a power above his head. I know exactly what has the powers and what doesn't. So we're going to like start this one off properly, like firing our spells. You got Power Infusion for damage, Fearsome Shriek. This was a problem for Holy Priest. That Fearsome Shriek cast is pretty fast, as you saw. It's pretty fast cast. And again, we could stop it, but we can stop it with one of these 2 spells, Chastise or Psychic Scream. And those are on GCD. I was also, and I actually currently am still downloading. You can see it's a very fast cast, so yeah, it's just hard. That's really difficult to actually kick that. That's a dangerous fear. I think we actually do end up pulling some mobs here. We're going to put our wings on ourselves to try to save ourselves from death. The cheat death effect off those wings, and it obviously increases our healing taken, so we drop our Holy Word Serenity. That's our big single target heal track down here. Drop that on ourselves with those wings, and it's like a full heal. It's really good. Yeah, I'm downloading Assassin's Creed Valhalla at the moment, actually. So we're also a little bit laggy, as you can see right here. Like, we are not in a good way. We're throwing some emergency heals on ourselves, but yeah, we're in pretty serious trouble, and we do go down. Again, that was getting feared in. So that's a mistake. That's our second death there on the run. We did take the elite down, though. I'm just going to go in. You can see the layout of this floor. Really cool with those mini boss arenas on both sides. I'm going to go clear out those mobs. They had a few more powers on them. Going to grab those powers and see you on the next floor. All right, guys. So we're coming up to the end of floor 5 here. This is the final floor with regular mobs. And again, I think the thing to highlight, the thing that definitely stood out to me, and you kind of notice as we fight through a couple of mob packs here, just to give you a feel, give you a vibe of the run, I certainly felt that on Holy Priest compared to Shadow Priest. Now, having gone through multiple floors, I will have to say that I do think that Holy Priest is certainly easier. Maybe we got a little bit lucky with powers, but definitely on those early floors, floors 1, floor 2, which were the most dangerous by far on Shadow Priest, were actually very challenging with this current gear level. On Holy Priest, those first 2 floors, extremely, extremely easy. However, in contrast, I feel like with the Shadow Priest, with the right set of powers, when we got to the end of some of these floors with Shadow Priest, we'd scaled up incredibly well, and we'd be absolutely tearing through these enemies. I think we got a pretty good set of powers here on Holy Priest, but we're certainly not tearing through those enemies, and actually the enemies do quite a bit of damage as you get into those higher floors. I didn't find it to be, a crippling problem. Here I'm again missing another fear kick. So that's just, at this point, that kick is slow enough that there's no excuse for that. That's just bad play, letting that one go through. But yeah, I found that on these higher floors, as Holy Priest, this is actually starting to get a little bit harder. It's a little bit more dangerous, and if you did pull big, you're certainly going to die. I think they just did too much damage. So certainly looking towards the Twisting Corridors, which is your 18 floor run, I do think that for these weekly floors, these weekly, wings, the weekly wings where you do the 2 6-floor runs for Soul Ash, I think on those, it is looking like healer specs are actually significantly easier than DPS specs right now. With the way that it's tuned, it's just easier. It just is. But I think when you start adding those extra floors, you go up to 18 floors because of how the damage scaling is working. I actually think for those longer runs, I'm expecting that the DPS specs might actually be better for that. That, yeah, they'll struggle on floor 1 and 2, but when you start getting up to like floor 5 and onwards, I think that the damage scaling you're going to have is going to pull ahead. Whereas I think for healers, that unless you get very lucky with some powers, I think that you're going to struggle a bit more there. That's sort of my vibe on this right now. But yeah, right, let's jump ahead to the mini boss of this floor, check that one out, and then of course check out the final boss. I mean, as you can see, we just ripping through some of these guys. That being said, we are still ripping through. This is certainly very doable. All right, it is mini boss time. I think this guy's probably gonna flop over. It looks like I'm not even using my cooldowns. I can't remember what I did on this guy. Yeah, okay, we're gonna use a couple of cooldowns. We actually get a crazy power here, which I think came in pretty clutch, because you're about to see a terrifying sight for those of us playing Torghast on the beta. But check this out. Really interesting power on the right, the Crumbling Aegis. In fact, these are all interesting powers, but check out Crumbling Aegis. Gain immunity to all damage and harmful effects for 1.5 minutes after picking up this power. We know that's not that's the very last boss of floor 5. We're going into floor 6. This is the final boss. We have Divine Shield for this time. So I see, I'm speeding myself up with Power Word Shield. I'm using my my teleport, my Door of Shadows. I'm trying to run. I'm actually kind of pissed off. I've got 700 Phantasma here. I was like, okay, just buy this stuff quick. Buy. Just whatever. Give me anything. Doesn't even matter. In fact, it sort of worked out. I'll grab one of those Plundered Anima cells. Okay, we're actually still in range of the shop. That's not what we want. Okay, come on, cancel it out. There we go. Throw it down. Grab a power. Flash shields are instant. Yeah, sure. Okay, great. Probably not, speedrunner tier shop, but, that's what we're trying to do. And this is what's terrifying. If you saw yesterday's video trying out this hardest difficulty on DPS, you will have seen this boss destroyed me on Shadow Priest. Number 1, he was very difficult. This boss does a fuck ton of damage. Those aerial strikes, if you get hit by that swirly, instant death, unless you've got some big what am I talking about? Damage reduction. But that ability right there, which you can actually stun, I hadn't realized on Shadow Priest. But that ability right there, he spins around with this laser beam. It's bugged right now in the beta. You guys will have seen that in the previous video. It's bugged, where the animation doesn't play properly. And if you get touched by that beam, again, it one-shots you. We have 3 seconds left on our Divine Shield thing here, and the boss is still at 60% health, so we will have to fight him fairly legitimately. Look at that Focus Blast. That just took off 40% of my health. This boss is no slouch. This boss is where things got crazy. Again, aerial strikes, get hit by those. It's a one-shot. Make sure to sidestep them. But yeah, interestingly enough, for the... you can see that was a really useful ability. That's one of my anima powers, that periodically during combat I send out this AoE wave that interrupts enemy casts, and that is crucial. And then using our stuns to interrupt the spinny laser beam. Because again, it's so buggy, and again, it could just one-shot you randomly. You can see this boss is ripping me apart right now. Here we go, the Ocular Beam. We're going to try sidestep this one. We actually get both of them at the same time. I drop my stun on him to stop that beam from doing whatever it's doing invisibly. We also get the AoE interrupt from our anima power. What an amazing anima power. That was from one of the rare mobs that we fought, one of the mini bosses. But we are down 23% health. We're barely staying alive here. Mind games, 18% health, and the boss goes down. Tough boss. That is a nasty mini boss. Really, really nasty. And then I was just kind of curious to see on that last boss there, tough boss, this is what our healing breakdown was. So yeah, I think fairly expected stuff. This is our damage breakdown. You can see that Cathar stick actually coming in huge. Mind games, our Covenant ability being really good as well. You can see our anima powers actually really didn't do very much damage. They actually didn't add much at all. But I guess they added something. But there you are, guys. That was the run. Bear in mind, that last boss I think is way harder than the one that we fought in the Shadow Priest videos. Warden Scaldus, I think, is a lot easier. He's like the dude in the giant rat sort of monster, and he just sort of charges around, and yeah, he still hits hard, but he's nowhere near as bad as that boss is. That boss is a lot harder, on top of being bugged. But that was the Holy Priest run. In conclusion, again, I think healers are substantially easier for Torghast wings right now. Substantially easier for these layer 8 runs. It was much smoother on Holy Priest, especially the early floors were way easier. So yeah, I think that if you're struggling on your DPS spec in week 1 or week 2, I definitely think swapping to healer, even solo healer like we did here on Holy Priest, probably the worst solo healer spec in the game without any working soul binds or conduits. It was easier than doing it on Shadow Priest. So that might be something that's worthwhile. If people who are just main healers and only really play healers are concerned, will I be able to solo this stuff? The answer is yes, absolutely. You're actually going to have probably an easier time. Although, like I said earlier in the video, once you go into the twisting corridors and you start getting into the much higher floors, like floors 7 to 10 or 11 to 16 or whatever, I think those are going to be a lot harder, because it did seem like the damage scaling was getting pretty harsh for the healers when it went higher, whereas for the DPS specs, I felt like those higher floors were pretty good, actually. Were pretty comfortable. When you started stacking up those anima powers, you're able to kill mobs pretty quickly. But there you are. Yeah, I think that sort of sums it up. I'm kind of curious. I might come back and make a new character and try this on a tank to see how the tanks are doing. I think that would certainly be interesting. But certainly from the healer perspective, it's looking great. It's maybe a little bit boring to do it as a solo healer. Half your spells are useless. All your AoE heals are useless. But absolutely doable. And again, if you're a healer with good DPS, like a Disc Priest or a Holy Paladin, I think you're gonna probably shred through that Torghast run really, really easily. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.